Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Karen's sister-in-law lost my $2,000 camera at the beach, so I'm suing her. After that, my 15-year-old niece keeps giving me a snobby attitude. It's going to be a very long 2 weeks. And after that, entitled customer wants to show his son the freezer he incorrectly installed, gets sued by the owner due to malicious compliance. Now for every thumbs up that this video gets, one Karen gets sued. Cha, like you can even afford a lawyer, Reddit boy. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Karen's sister-in-law lost my $2,000 camera at the beach, so I'm suing her. I'm 26, female, and my sister-in-law, who's 20, moved in with me and my husband weeks ago because of problems with her boyfriend. She isn't planning on going back until he apologizes, even though she broke his Xbox device in an argument. I'm a blogger. I have a small space in our apartment, sort of like my office, but very small, where I work for hours. Sister-in-law always enters the room and takes stuff and doesn't return it, resulting in me replacing it until I get a lock. She was going to the beach with some friends to let off some steam and asked if she could borrow my $2,000 video camera to record the trip. But I declined and explained that I was working on the weekend and I would need it. I got done with my project and left my camera on the desk. When I woke up the next day at 9 a.m. and had a shower, then breakfast, I entered my office and didn't find my camera. I freaked out and my husband told me to calm down because his sister took it with her to the beach. He assured me it was in safe hands, but I kept worrying about it and was upset by the fact that she took it and he gave her the key. She got back at 7 p.m. and was complaining about getting in a fight with her boyfriend after seeing him with someone else at the beach, and it ruined her day. She started crying loudly and cussing him out. I asked for my camera back, and she said she didn't have it. She left angry after the encounter and forgot her sunglasses, her cream, her hat, and my camera at the beach. Her friend, Aiden, picked some of the stuff up and brought it back, but the camera apparently was stolen. I started yelling, calling her irresponsible and reckless, and this was a $2,000 camera she left behind. She started apologizing, then tried to blame it on her now ex-boyfriend for getting her into a fight with this girl he was with. I said I need the camera for my work, and she had to replace it like yesterday. My husband got involved and said it wasn't her fault it got stolen and suggested I get a cheaper camera from Amazon for now until I can afford to buy a new one. I said, "What? Why should I buy a replacement when it was his sister who lost it? She took it without permission and was responsible for whatever happened afterwards." He tried to make excuses for her being an emotional mess. I said I have no problem suing her. He asked if I was serious, and I said yes, because I've worked hard to get this camera, and my work's always been known to be of high quality, so for him to suggest a cheap camera from Amazon was offensive. He said he was just trying to help fix the problem, but I said he was just helping his sister avoid responsibility. Both him and his sister aren't speaking to me anymore, so suddenly claiming they're giving me time to calm down, where in fact, they're cold shouldering me, making me feel guilty for saying that. I'm not sure if doing this will be morally the right thing to do since she's family, and as my husband says, am I the jerk? Edit. Someone here mentioned the possibility of her friend Aiden taking it, which is a possibility. But when I requested to speak to him about what happened, my sister-in-law said I was wrong to hint that he took the camera, even though I just wanted to ask him a few questions. She told me to leave him out of it since she trusts him with her stuff. You need to leave that guy. Let him and his sister rot together. Yowza, Karen. You need some milk? My 15-year-old niece keeps giving me a snobby attitude. It's going to be a very long 2 weeks. My niece is staying with me until September 18th. Because her parents left for their vacation yesterday. She flew in from San Diego yesterday morning, and it's been nothing but heck. I live in Colorado, by the way. She keeps nonstop complaining about how cold it is here, as if I have any control of the weather. When she first got to my house, she said, "Do I really have to stay in this?" before even entering. I live in a townhouse. She was upset there is no pool, and was like, "Why don't you have a pool? I know you're poor, but everyone should have a pool." My car isn't as nice as her parents' cars, and she keeps complaining how run down it is and is scared it's going to fall apart. I drive a 2016 Honda Accord. There's nothing wrong with it. It's kept clean. Her dad drives an Audi, and her stepmom drives a Maserati. She also keeps making videos around my house, laughing at all of my furniture, the way the house looks, my car, etc. She asked if I got my furniture at IKEA because it looks cheap, and she laughed. She's complaining because there's carpet throughout the house, and only poor people have that, and that the bathrooms have tile floors and not marble, and that she has to shower in a tub shower with a shower curtain. At her house, it's a stand-up shower with marble walls, and there's a glass door. I don't have stand-up showers. She's also mad that there's no sauna in the bathroom. She said straight to my face, "I can't believe I have to stay in this crappy place until my parents get back," and then walked outside and slammed the door and was texting someone, probably her dad. She's very close to him. As of today, my guest bedroom already has stuff out everywhere. The blankets I originally had on the bed, along with the pillows, got thrown into the hallway and replaced with the ones she brought. She has clothes all over the floor. She has a few dishes with half-eaten food sitting on the floor. I told her yesterday no eating or drinking upstairs. She's using the dresser as a vanity and left all of her makeup and used makeup wipes out everywhere. She said if I want the room clean, I can do it myself or hire a maid, then laughed and said, "Oh wait, I forgot. You're too poor for that." I ordered takeout last night from a local restaurant, and she made fun of the menu because the prices were cheap. $25 for a burger is cheap? And she got the $80 filet mignon dinner and threw most of it out because it tasted weird and she wasn't that hungry. Her dad sent me $650 to feed her and take her to do whatever, so that came from that money. Yesterday, we went to eat at Outback Steakhouse for lunch, and she refused to eat any of her food. She said it looked weird. She said her dad would never take her to a dump like this restaurant. Then she kept complaining she was hungry after we left, and I'm a terrible person for making her starve and wasting her time by making her sit there. We also went furniture shopping because her dad wants to buy her a new bedroom set for her 16th birthday next month, along with her trip to Hawaii. She's being very picky, and he wanted me to check out the prices of places around here, see if she likes anything, and get back to him on it. He said she has a budget of $8,000 total for her bedroom. She wants either these upholstered princess bed frames or these mirror bed frames, which are pricey. It's around $3,000 to $5,000 for the ones she likes, and that's just for the bed frame by itself. She also wants a vanity, a bench, a nightstand, a chandelier, and a dresser with it, and they all have to match the bed. I tried showing her cheaper options, and she screamed at me in the store, "I have no taste, and that it's her bedroom furniture. Stay out of it." She told me to go back to the car and wait because I'm annoying her. I was about ready to leave her there, honestly. She then wanted to go clothes shopping and knows her dad sent me money. I said, "You can get an outfit," meaning one. You still need food from the grocery store. She was not happy about that and told me to stop being a cheap jerk with her dad's money. She was adamant about getting this one dress and a pair of heels that was $230. That's less money than she has to spend on groceries and other things. She knows this and still went with the purchase. She wanted me to buy food for her from Whole Foods and use some of my money if I run out of the money her dad gave me. I was going to buy her her own groceries because she's a very picky eater. I suggested a local grocery store because it's cheaper and she can get more food. She started yelling at me, calling me names, so we went home instead. She ignored me the rest of the car ride and was texting someone. She got out of the car and started crying, saying she misses her dad and she hates me. She hates my house, it's so embarrassing and trashy, and wishes she could be on vacation with her dad, and it's not fair she has to stay with me, and ran into the house crying. She keeps yelling at me to buzz off and stop talking to her, that I'm annoying, to go away, etc. when I say anything to her. I was eating a sandwich earlier, around almost 4 p.m., and she came downstairs and said, "Nice to see you feed your fat face while I starve. You're such a selfish jerk. You know that I hope you choke on it," and rolled her eyes and went back upstairs. I ordered pizza for dinner, and she started crying at the table that she misses her dad. I asked if she had called him and talked to him today, and she said in a rude tone, "What do you think?" and rolled her eyes. Then she was complaining about how gross the pizza was and got up and took the box and threw it in the garbage. She then told me to go to a gym and to lose weight, said that I'm disgusting and went outside. She also just took a super long shower and said she's going to keep doing it every day since it's so cold here. And if I don't like it, tough, because she doesn't like being cold or being here. She swore at me for not turning on the heat in the house. It's not cold enough to turn the heat on, in my opinion. I usually don't start doing that until the end of October, beginning of November, when the highs are only in the 50s. It's going to be a very long 2 weeks. She goes to a private school, and they are doing online school again this year. Her first day is September 7th, and she's already telling me that I can't force her to log in and do her schoolwork, that she doesn't care about it. She's right, I can't. But I don't want to be blamed for her being tardy. I know her dad will be pretty upset since he's paying for her to go there. This girl needs to return to the shadows from whence she came. Entitled customer wants to show his son the freezer he incorrectly installed. Gets sued by the owner due to malicious compliance. So this happened a few years ago, so it's not exact. I was listening to a story on YouTube that reminded me of this customer. I worked at a burger joint back then. I was working through college at the time. This restaurant was brand new, and the building was only finished being built 6 months ago. From day one, there were electrical problems with the walk-in freezer. This one is the size of most living rooms. Once we even had to throw out all of the meat and close for a week for repairs and to replace the stock. Kinda bad for a burger joint to only serve salad, you know? Most of the time, I was the barkeep, but sometimes the waiters needed help. This was a day I was helping them as the bar was slow. I see a customer in his 40s, whom I will call Ken from here on out, and his son, who is maybe 10 years old. I take their order, and at first everything is normal. I go get their drinks and put the order in. I come back, and he asks me if he could go in the back with his son because he wanted to show off the custom freezer that he installed with his company. He even bragged about needing a crane to lift it into the place. I told Ken no. It was not only a health code violation, but also a huge safety issue. He got absolutely angry. He argued that he knew the kitchen better than anyone else there. He himself wired the freezer and his company installed it. His son was looking embarrassed. He even asked his dad to stop, and he didn't need to see it. Ken berated him, asking if he was proud of his dad and the restaurant equipment/electrical company he owned. I told him I would go ask the manager just to make him happy. I wasn't going to ask. I knew the answer. I went to the back for about 2 minutes and ran a load of dishes for the dish guy while I waited on Ken and Son's food. The food came out, and I took it to them and told Ken the manager said no. Most people would be okay with that. He demanded to speak to the manager himself. Cue malicious compliance. Little did Ken know that I had overheard my manager, who also was the owner, saying he was going to sue the company that installed the freezer, but he was having trouble finding out who the owner was, so he could have the lawyer address the letter to him. My boss had lost thousands of dollars because of the freezer being incorrectly installed. It passed building and the initial health inspections because the wiring issue was not visible, and it held temperature on the inspection day. Oh, was boss happy when I told him the owner of that freezer installation company was right outside eating a burger. He and I walked out, and I introduced Ken as the owner of the company that installed the freezer. Manager puts on a big customer service smile, the kind that secretly says, "Forget you." He says he is so happy with the new restaurant, but he needed the owner's card in case there was an issue with the brand new freezer. Ken happily gives manager his personal card with his personal cell and email. Boss smiles with a real one this time and says, "Thank you. Now my lawyer will be in contact with you soon for the incorrectly installed freezer." Ken just has a mouth hanging open. Before he can say anything, manager tells him he had 2 new electricians look at it because no one at his office would help him. So he knows it was the freezer, and he knows it was his crappy job that cost him thousands in monetary loss. He also adds that if he attempts to leave without paying, he will be arrested because now the manager has his name and his phone number. Manager/owner did sue and won close to $50,000 in damages. Edit. There were permits for the install. It was just all under his office name and various employees with the office phone number given. Manager/owner did try calling them first, but always got the runaround. Am I the jerk for snapping back with a hurtful reply when my husband's coworker called me annoying? So my husband was away for 2 weeks on a work trip. It was more of a voluntary training thing really, so I picked him up at the train station when he returned. It was a 32-hour-long journey by train, and my husband can't sit up in a moving train for very long without feeling sick, so obviously I was worried, but I was also excited to see him. So when he stepped out of the train, I got all excited and gave him an energetic hug and started fussing over him. He also had a cough and a cold because of train AC. I also have an embarrassing nickname for him, which I like to slip out in public just to embarrass him because he looks cute when he's embarrassed. Now, it has to be noted that nobody else's significant other came to pick them up. One of his coworkers said, "Annoying crap like this is why I'm single," and some of them snickered. I hit him back with, "No, it's probably because nobody likes you." Everyone laughed. Now I have some excuses. We got married just before lockdown. We'd been practically glued to each other since lockdown started. I lost my job, and we decided to not look for another one right now so I could work on my mental health a little. Plus, he rarely has to take trips like this. It was difficult, and I missed him terribly for 2 weeks, especially when I had to take his place as his cat's slave. Also, my ex always hated it when I got excited by something and kept telling me to sober up, so that guy's comment got really annoying. Now, I know I hurt him with that. Like, you could see it in his eyes. I struck a nerve with that one. So I've been feeling guilty, but also kind of justified. I know it's wrong to make fun of people for not being in a relationship, and the fact that everyone laughed makes me feel worse. Husband has asked me to never stop being annoying, quoting his coworker, and to never not be excited to see him, but he might just have a slight bias, so I want some objective opinion. Edit. So I've gotten a lot of responses. Thanks, I guess, for your judgments. I read most of them. Sorry I stopped replying because I fell asleep. Anyways, I had a talk with my husband when he came back. I've been called clingy by some exes before, and it took some time for me to get rid of the "am I being too clingy?" anxiety, and the responses kind of brought it back. Husband assured me it wasn't an issue. He said he liked it, and it was not me being clingy. He reassured me he enjoyed it when I get all giddy and I miss him and worry about him, but he did say I could ease down on the nickname usage, especially around coworkers. So yeah, I'm not using it in public again. Then we cuddled and fell asleep, and I woke up to so many upvotes and responses. Despite so many not the jerk responses, I did read some "you're the jerk" responses with rather good points, so I'm going to apologize to the guy regardless. I'll catch him the next week I pick my husband up from work. Thank you for taking your time to read my post. I see some people are curious to the nickname. It's Pumpkin. So if you're about to comment about me embarrassing my husband, please save your breath. Take my front row seat and tell me to just sit behind you? If you insist. During halftime at our local high school's football game, we went to the concession stand to get some food. Now, I didn't think it would be an issue because we were sitting with a group of people, but I laid my stuff out on the bleachers anyway. However, when we got back, we were met with a group of middle-aged people and a rather elderly lady sitting in our spot, and my stuff was tossed to the side. Now, usually I'm an extremely nice person, to the point that people are always yelling at me for being too nice and getting taken advantage of. But this week, I've had enough. I am sick of being taken advantage of and done dealing with people's bull. I stood there for a minute and said, this is our seat. You took our seat, and that's extremely rude. The leader of the middle-aged ladies, who we'll call Karen, snapped back. They said no one was sitting here. So sorry. But made absolutely no attempt at moving, to which my husband said, "Yeah, you really look sorry." Karen motioned behind her and said, "There's room back there." However, there was only one small section of bleacher directly behind her and between our entire group. I thought about it for a second and realized that arguing wasn't going to get us anywhere and would just make me look bad. So I smiled to my husband and said, "Okay, let's squeeze in here." It was like he could read my mind in that second, and we knew exactly what was about to happen. So my husband and I, along with our 4 kids, squeezed right up behind and beside Karen. As anyone with kids or anyone that has ever seen kids, you can probably see where this went. The kids were running on pure sugar, adrenaline, and school spirit after a long first week of school, and I made special sure the youngest, who is 6, sat right next to me, directly behind Karen and her large bleacher chair she had set up. Did I also mention that the reason we were sitting up front is because kids can't sit still? These kids like getting as close as possible to see the game, but also enjoy coming back to us to sit and talk for a bit. In any other situation, I would have made sure my kids were respectful and courteous of those around us. I would have put a stop to the screaming when our team scored, the jumping up and down, chanting with the cheerleaders, running between us and the fence, but not this night. I think it took Karen all of 5 minutes to realize her mistake. The cringing from the screams right behind her, the leaning from side to side when they were standing at the fence blocking her view, the 6-year-old happily swinging his feet back and forth, oblivious he was repeatedly kicking the back of her seat. Karen was getting audibly and visibly annoyed from it all and kept giving me dirty looks as if to say, "Control your kids," where I'd just shrug and look at my husband and say, "I tried to tell her." One by one, those in Karen's group started to leave, but Karen held on the longest and still only made it about half an hour before she decided she couldn't take it anymore and left. Now, I'm not a complete monster. I made sure my kids didn't bump or bother the elderly lady, and I even asked Karen to move her purse she had put behind her before it got stepped on, but even that was met with a scoff. Maybe next time, though, Karen will think twice before stealing seats from kids because she might get more than she bargained for by inviting us to squeeze in behind her. Subway malicious compliance costs franchise owners more than our $7 an hour minimum wage. About 15 years ago, I was in high school and started working at a new Subway in my town. This was right when the decor changed from an NYC Subway map to the vegetables and crap all over the walls. The owners were very adamant that we only got paid for our schedule and not for the actual time we worked. I didn't think much of it because I never really had a job before. It was after my first few shifts that I realized this was BS. I'd get paid for working 5 to 8, but I'd have to stay until almost 9 because the dinner rush was rough and prep needed to get done. After a few pay periods, we high school employees raised the question with the owners and told them our time slips didn't match our paychecks. They said, "We know that we only got paid for our schedule and not total hours worked." At the time, a buddy was dating a girl whose mom worked for a state DOL. He brought up the issue with his girlfriend's mom and got an investigation started. The problem with the state labor department is that investigations were announced ahead of time. They were notified that the state was interested in pay discrepancies and were going to review payroll and compare it to the time clock records. But those gears ground slowly. Before the hammer fell, we had a new policy quickly implemented that said we were only allowed to work the hours we were scheduled and not a minute more. Cool, glad that's in writing. Things went okay for the first few weeks, with only occasional managerial grumblings about having to work more now that we left at our time on the dot. Then our city hosted a travel baseball tournament at a park about a mile from our store. You can probably see where this is going. We get busloads of people in our little shopping complex and a line out the door when my shift ends at 1. Deuces, guys. The manager/owner's son is in his office watching The Matrix when I go and clock out. He gets all upset about the line and says I have to stay and help. I asked if I'd get paid for the extra time. He said, "You only get paid for your scheduled time," and trailed off. He knew he was done for. He didn't have the ability to authorize more payroll expenses without also calling his management into question. Sorry. As I'm walking out of the front, we weren't allowed to park in the back near the door. We had to park in Gen Pop parking and walked out the front door. He starts following me out and shouting in front of the customers. He fired me on the spot and demanded back my Subway shirts. No, you took $15 per shirt out of my first paycheck. They're mine. He followed me out into the parking lot, yelling at me until I drove off. The line was still there when I pulled out. I found out later that afternoon that 2 other people quit after their shifts ended because the job was crap, the pay was crap, and the stress was boundless. The absentee owners eventually called each of us and asked us to come back. One of us did. I didn't. My other friend didn't either. I actually got a job at a different Subway that was a piece of cake compared to the job I got fired from. All of the employees eventually got their back pay after the Labor Department investigation dust settled. They settled with the state to pay everyone 300% of their missing wages and had to pay for annual audits for 5 years to ensure they weren't breaking the law again. It got so bad that Subway's parent company, Doctors Associates, sent a team down to get the owners into compliance with state and federal labor laws. All this because they didn't want to pay us our minimum wage for the extra half hour or so per day. The scammers are getting creative. Greetings from the Hotel Night Audit, fellow adventurers. Tonight, my constant delivery scammers tried something new, and I was almost impressed. As usual, I got the 1:30 a.m. phone call from a number with way too many digits speaking in Spanish. They always start this way. We move on to me telling them I don't speak Spanish and there's nobody here that does. After a few rounds of this, they usually just hang up. But tonight, they moved on to script number 2. Scammer.
Well, that's okay. I actually speak English.
I hang up. I know every word of their script by now. This isn't my first rodeo. I can't fathom why they keep trying my hotel. They should know me by now. Sometimes I keep them on the line and mess with them for a while, but I was in the middle of sending 150 pages of end-to-end month reports and didn't have time for patience. Immediately he calls back. I answer and see the same number. Me. Sir, I recognize this number. Just stop. I hang up again. 5 minutes later, the phone rings again. This time I see a number from somewhere in Massachusetts. Okay. Scammer number 2.
Good evening. This is Mr. Hernandez.
Me. Good morning, sir. How may I help you? Scammer 2.
We've
We? Who's we?
received a report that you have been speaking very rudely to a guest on the phone. Miss, just because someone speaks a different language.
Me. Let me stop you right there. That number is a known scammer. I deal with them weekly, and I know their entire script. I'm not being rude to any guests or potential guests. I'm being deliberately rude to the scammer. Scammer 2.
Well, that explains everything. How is your night going?
Really? He's going to keep trying? Me. It's going just fine, thank you.
You do know who you're talking to, right?
Me. I know you said your name is Mr. Hernandez. Other than that, no, you haven't given me any information.
Right. Bill Hernandez, your general manager.
Note, both of my managers are white women with no hint of an accent. My corporate office is in India, and nobody would ever be speaking with a Spanish accent. At this point, I just burst out laughing and say, Sir, you are definitely not my general manager, and I hang up again. Points for creativity, many negative points for poor execution. Ah, I love my job. Am I the jerk for telling my roommate that her weak arm strength is not an excuse to leave dishes soaking for multiple days? I, 36, female, inherited a 3-bedroom house when I was in my early 20s. In the beginning, I mostly just rented out to friends and coworkers and have always charged well below the general going rate for apartments in my area. I charge enough to cover fees, upkeep, etc. In exchange, I have some odd rules that are in the rental agreement. Also, because I live in the house too, any pets have to get along with my cat. Never been an issue. Friends can come over, but overnight guests have to be approved. And that just means let me know how long they're staying ahead of time. And the big ones, the kitchen needs to be kept clean. Dishes don't sit out overnight. You clean your mess that day, barring emergencies or something. Basically, I never want to walk into my kitchen in the morning to make my coffee and find a mess. Jenny has been living here 6 months. She's the sister of one of my former tenants. But about 2 months ago, Jenny started getting into cooking more than she normally would. She started leaving dishes overnight to soak and would wake up early in the morning and give me a sheepish smile and say, "Oh, I just don't have the arm strength to clean these right after. They have to soak." I let her know once or twice was fine, but please don't make a habit out of it. Fast forward to about a week ago, she made a roast chicken and sides, left the dirty dishes all over the kitchen. She went to work the next morning, leaving everything to soak. Meanwhile, I had no space to make my breakfast and there was an overall unpleasant odor. When she got back, she went to her room to wash up and she was about to leave again for something, and I asked her when she was going to clean the kitchen. She just stood there awkwardly and said, well, I have plans, so I was going to do it tomorrow. They have to soak. It's too hard." She gave me an exaggerated pout. I told her that they had already soaked and she needed to clean them. She started to clean them, but made a pitiful bunch of "oof" and noises as she heaved the dishes around and grunted really extravagantly, trying to get across that it was just so hard and everything was too heavy and stuck to the pan. I got tired of the theatrics and told her that her weak upper body strength isn't an excuse to be a slob and that she either commits to cleaning her dishes the night she dirties them, as agreed, or she can move out and go slob up someone else's house. She started crying and stormed off, leaving all the dishes. She sent me a text saying that she's afraid of me now and that she doesn't feel safe living there because my absolutely crazy rules. She started calling people on her social media about it and telling people that I'm a mean old jerk and that it's absolutely insane she's expected to clean her dishes that night and how I mocked her weakness. I've never had an issue like this before with a roommate/tenant, but it's honestly making me think it'll be my last one. Am I the jerk? Am I the jerk for telling my boyfriend that if he doesn't go to work, he's no longer using anything of mine, including my car and Wi-Fi? 28 female and 29 male. Been together for like 4 years, I think. I love this guy to death, but when I say he's lazy, that is seriously a huge understatement and doesn't even shed an ounce of light on the actual problem. He's also a gaming junkie, like the worst of their kind. For example, when a game is being released, he waits up until midnight to purchase the game, no matter how expensive, and will binge on it for weeks straight while hardly sleeping. During this time, you'll be lucky to get as much as a hello out of him without him getting upset for you disrupting him, but still expects people to literally cater to his every need so that he doesn't have to get up to do anything. I don't entertain this because I'm not his mother. Anyways, a year and a half ago, I had to give him an ultimatum. You either get a job and start supporting yourself, or you can leave and go mooch off someone else. He chose to get a job. Lasted a month before he quit. Found another job 2 months later, lasted 2 weeks and quit. He was unemployed for 11 months when he finally landed this job in September. Assassin's Creed was just released, 2 weeks ago? And he started calling out every single day. Started staying up until 4 a.m. playing this game, would sleep until 8 to 10 a.m. and then be right back at it while asking me to cook and cater to him. Yesterday, I unplugged and hid his Xbox. I knew he was going to call out and jump on his game. As I suspected, that's exactly what he tried doing. He picked a fight with me, said he hated working, and I was forcing him to waste away his life. Claimed he was depressed, though that's the worst I've heard of it. He then tells me to get off my lazy butt and do something for once. I told him to leave. He takes my car because his is on its last leg. His words. He's not in work clothes, so I know he wasn't going to work. I texted him and said, if you aren't going to work, bring my car back. And if you plan on flaking on this job like the rest of them, you will not be using my car or my internet. Make your choice. He texted back saying, you trying to mother me all the time is a turnoff. You holding things against me all the time also makes you a jerk. Am I the jerk?
Huge shout out to Sentinel, our newest official channel member. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, it really means the world to us. Click this button to join as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video.
And come watch this video next, the one that just popped up on your screen. YouTube is recommending it specifically for you based on the other videos that you watch.